The Mysterious Old Radio Listening Society, live from the Bryant Lake Bowl.
Good evening, creeps. Please welcome to the stage your mysterious hosts, Eric, Tim, Joshua, and special ghoulish guest star, Shannon Custer.
Look out!
Welcome to the Mysterious Old Radio Listening Society, a podcast dedicated to suspense, crime, and horror stories from the golden age of radio. I'm Eric.
I'm Tim.
I'm Joshua.
And I'm Shannon.
So we love mysterious old-time radio stories, but do they stand the test of time? That's what we're here to find out.
Tonight with a live audience, we present not one, but two episodes of my choosing. I know. I'm nervous, but okay, I guess, which is pretty much my natural state. Tonight's episodes are part of Orson Welles' short-lived CBS series called Ceiling Unlimited that ran from 1942 through 1944.
Welles was only part of the first 13 episodes of Ceiling Unlimited, which he wrote, directed, produced, and hosted himself. These short, patriotic radio plays, each episode clocks in at no more than 15 minutes, featured Hollywood movie stars such as Marlene Dietrich, Cary Grant, William Powell, and Basil Rathbone. In addition, Welles brought in his roster of Mercury Theater actors, including Ray Collins, Joseph Cotton, Everett, sorry, you got excited about turning that page for me, but good job. Joseph Cotton, Everett Sloan, and Agnes Moorehead. The series also featured the works of playwright Arthur Miller, someone Welles had worked with in the Federal Theater Project, as well as author John Steinbeck and radio favorite Lucille Fletcher.
But the real star of Ceiling Unlimited, however, was the program's sponsor, the Lockheed Corporation, or Lockheed in Vega, as it was called on the air. The Lockheed Vega was a 5 to 7 seat high-wing monoplane, which means it only has one set of wings, in case you weren't sure. The Lockheed Vega's high speed attracted many famous pilots, including Amelia Earhart, who was the first woman to fly solo in one shot across the Atlantic Ocean. The Lockheed Corporation is now called Lockheed Martin, and its mission remains much the same as when it was founded in 1926. Aerospace manufacturing with a focus on defense technology.
Ceiling Unlimited, therefore, had one mission: to glorify the aviation industry, namely Lockheed and Vega, and dramatize how it contributed to World War II. Lockheed and Vega sponsored the program without requiring a single commercial break, absolutely content to have just 3 one-line mentions throughout each show because they only had one lucrative customer: the wartime Allied governments.
Orson Welles' dedication to creating Ceiling Unlimited was both personal and dutiful. As John Dunning recounts in On the Air, the encyclopedia of old-time radio, Welles had just returned from Latin America after shooting the never-to-be-released film It's All True, and threw himself back into radio. As the story goes, Welles' bad back and flat feet prevented him from serving in World War II, but unofficially, Welles was never interested in enlisting, preferring to contribute to the war effort using his voice and art. In addition to Ceiling Unlimited, Welles signed on to another CBS program called Hello Americans, which sought to foster understanding between North America and Central and South America. He also led a campaign to sell war bonds and entertain troops with his Mercury Wonder Show.
Despite all his good intentions, Welles' new tenure with CBS was brief. As Dunning describes, a blow-up with an agency man just before airtime one night resulted in a Welles walkout. After a hazy reorganization and a summer series with author James Hilton, the show returned as a half-hour Hollywood variety series. That series, perhaps just as hastily renamed America, Ceiling Unlimited, was hosted by Welles' aforementioned friend and collaborator, Joseph Cotton, and could be best described as a variety show. The series was last heard in 1944. Each guest star was asked to sign a miniature P-38 Lightning plane, which eventually was to be auctioned off at a war bond sale.
Further described by Dunning as aggressively patriotic, Sealing Unlimited varied in tone and theme depending on its guest stars and writers. But as Orson Welles' biographer Brett Stevens put it, the purpose was not to strike fear into the hearts of Americans or to develop overconfidence, but to exemplify a confident, knowledgeable attitude of the war effort and to make the public aware of the sacrifices necessary to win the war.
As mentioned, we'll hear 2 episodes of Sealing Unlimited back to back and in the order they first aired. Our first play was the 7th episode during the reign of Orson Welles and was written by Lucille Fletcher. First aired as a Christmas episode on December 21st, 1942, Fletcher's play Gremlins featured Joseph Cotton and Agnes Moorehead in addition to Welles.
During World War II, especially, gremlins, chaotic, fanciful creatures bent on causing trouble, were how inexplicable technical issues in the air or any mental problem among pilots in combat were explained away. Taken from an Old English word, Gremian, which literally means to vex, the lore of gremlins was initially only popular among the Royal Air Force until author Roald Dahl popularized it in his first children's novel, aptly entitled The Gremlins. Dahl's book was so popular that Disney optioned it for an animated feature, but was eventually abandoned due to copyright issues. Still, the book and the creatures that Dahl created were hugely popular. It's evidence that Eleanor Roosevelt read the book to her grandchildren.
So no, these are not the gremlins that you shouldn't feed after midnight.
At the time of Sealing Unlimited, Lucille Fletcher was a known commodity as well as a collaborator with Welles after he featured and starred in her gripping and highly produced play The Hitchhiker on the Orson Welles Show in 1941. Starting at CBS Radio as a copyright clerk and publicity writer, Fletcher reached great heights throughout her career, including being a regular contributor to what would become the longest-running and most celebrated anthology series in radio history, Suspense. Her play Sorry Wrong Number during that tenure featured Agnes Moorehead and later Barbara Stanwyck in the film version and securely placed her as one of radio's most influential and innovative writers.
Our second episode we'll hear is the final episode for Welles and the Mercury Theater. Welles both writes and performs in this farewell to his time with the series and provides his listeners with a glimpse of an idealized future set at the LaGuardia Airport. It's 1946, and we're out of the war, and the skies are finally clear. Clearly titled The Future, Welles aired his goodbye to Sealing Unlimited on February 1st, 1943.
We now invite you to hear Orson Welles' experiment in radio with episodes number 7 and number 13 of Sealing Unlimited, originally aired December 21st, 1942 and February 1st, 1943, respectively.
It's late at night, and a chill has set in. You're alone, and the only light you see is coming from an antique radio. Listen to the sounds coming from the speaker, listen to the music, and listen to the voices.
Sealing Unlimited.
Hello, Americans. This is Orson Welles. The men and women of Lockheed and Vega bring you this radio show with their good wishes for your Christmas. Tonight, we've taken our microphone to an important meeting of military chiefs somewhere in the United Nations.
Robert speaking. Yes, sir. No, sir.
General Roberts.
Hold it, I'm talking to him now. What am I going to say to him? Yes, sir. Just as soon as we know, sir.
General Roberts, here are some new reports, sir.
Chung King.
Here's one from the Kremlin.
Look at this one. Typical. A flyer who's had over 8,000 hours. Just as I was preparing to land, he says, a large purple one of the big-bellied type suddenly sucked the air right out from under my plane.
One of the purple variety.
That's what he says.
One of the big-bellied kind.
Oh, they're beastly.
Will someone tell me where those creatures come from?
Their name derives from the Old English transitive verb, gremmy, meaning to vex, I believe.
Gremmy. To vex, huh? Well, if we don't get something definite, old Courtney will...
Old Courtney will what? Yes. What is it old Courtney will do?
Well, I'm sorry, General Courtney.
You mean about calling me old? Well, I am old. I've never felt older. 600 miles of the vilest weather I've ever flown in, and literally hundreds of them, gentlemen. Hundreds swarming all over the plane.
Won't you please take this chair, General?
No, I will not. 3 of the sharp-nosed ones aboard, gentlemen, and, well, no less than 20 of the hairy-leggedy ones.
Dad, you don't mean the ones with the triangular holes in their stomachs.
What's their particular function?
The holes for the wind to whistle through. Of course, it makes the young pilots think they're going faster than they are.
Villainous.
There was one who blew a flute in me ear, like this. Beep, 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 beep. Yeah, he played it. He did it again.
Huh?
There!
Hiding in your scarf, sir.
Look, there it goes!
Someone swat it! Swat it! Bash the little blighter!
Oh, no, sir, don't hit it. It's a Fifinella.
Blast the Fifinella!
They're the females, sir.
Sorry. Bunged right through the window pane by thunder.
Plug that window, orderly. We are violating the blackout.
General Roberts. Oh, has that wireless telephone come in again?
Yes, it has. Shortly before you arrived.
What'd you tell him?
There wasn't anything I could say.
No, I suppose not. Nothing we can say. The official report come in yet?
I'll read it to you. Once upon a time, many, many long years ago, when this old earth of ours was just beginning to stir in its sleep.
Great day in the morning.
Among the reeds and rushes, there lived the goblins and the gnomes and the elves and all the other little people of the fairy race.
What?
It's a report, Courtney.
Go on.
One little clan was different from all the rest.
Different? Oh, my great aunt.
Thousands and thousands and thousands of years, this little tribe lived in a lovely green wood.
Oh, my grandmother's hat. Boil it down, somebody.
Well, Courtney, it seems that these little...
Gremlins, they were getting along very well, minding their own business until we came along and dug up their woods to make an airfield.
The general idea is that the Gremlins are out to get even. Now, this young lieutenant...
What young lieutenant?
An American named Messler, one of my boys, has quite an idea. I ordered him to report here.
Where is he?
Lieutenant Messler reporting. General Roberts, sir.
Messler, you're an authority on Gremlins and the Fifinellas and the Widgets.
I've met them all, sir.
Oh, mister. Ever come on a spandoolie?
Oh, yes, sir, once. Picked up 6 of them over Norway. They smeared ice on the wings, had little mops and pails.
Ever run into a straight-tail gremlin?
Oh, they're hideous.
They're blue in color.
Blue.
Bilious blue.
With blue tinged fur.
They snap rubber bands in the pilot's ears to make them pop.
Carry a pocket full of soda straws, they do, and blow bubbles in the oil line.
It's only a week ago, sir. It's only a week ago. Well, I was coming in for a night landing with only one flare at the end of the runway and a whole crowd of spade-nosed gremlins. You know, the kind that dig holes in the landing fields. Rushed out, picked up the runway, and lifted it a good 8 feet off the ground.
Don't doubt it.
And just as my wheels were going to touch the ground, they all caught sight of a young female.
Fifinella.
She was behaving just like Margie Hart.
I know just what those gremlins did.
You're right, sir. They dropped the runway and ran after her.
There you are. Well, Lieutenant, you were brought here, I gather, because you have some sort of constructive suggestion.
I'm coming to that, sir. However, I would first like to acknowledge my indebtedness to a young lady whose womanly intuition finally enabled me to win through. I'm referring to Miss Moira O'Dooligan. And as long as this is a confidential report, I can state quite frankly that I was hoping shortly to make her my wife.
Congratulations.
It was while I was paying her a visit that I first received my new slant on the situation.
Slant, eh?
If you will permit me, sir, I will tell you about it.
Hello, Ducky. Come into the house, me heart. Are you on leave?
Only today. Give me a kiss, please. I've had a touch of nerves.
Nerves. And you the calmest of men.
Moira, they're getting me down.
Is it the gremlins, you mean, dear?
Hopping around the way they do in their suction boots. It's very unpleasant.
Suction boots?
A new wrinkle of theirs. So the wind won't knock them down.
Ah, the clever ones.
Last night, they climbed into the gas tank and sucked up half the gas. A couple went swimming in the oil lines, and one of them got stuck. He's the worst. He's taken a personal dislike to me.
Ah, no, me darling. The little ones are never personal.
This one is. Clarence. Clarence, his name is. Clarence Gremlin. He carries a hammer as big as himself. I power dive, and he clunks me on top of the head with it, or he runs out on my wrist and bangs me across the knuckles.
Poor treasure.
One after another. bangs them like he was playing a xylophone. And he whispers in my ears. When it's soupy and thick, he whispers at me. You're flying upside down, he whispers. Well, then just when I'm relaxing, he suddenly shouts, there's a Jerry on your tail. I start to do a wing over and get away, and then he laughs. And that horrible, high-pitched, squeaky little awful giggle, and reaches up, he does, and yanks a hair out of my head.
Aww.
That's his way of keeping tally. Look at me. I'm almost bald.
Just like Muley, dear. Her tail, I mean.
I beg your pardon?
Muley is our cow at home in Ireland.
Very interesting. And do you think there's some resemblance?
It was Muley had the same identical trouble, me heart. They pulled all the hair out of her tail.
They?
The people of the she. Your little one, my dear. Your sheog. Is he fat or thin?
Homely. Thin, too. All the gremlins are thin. Legs like twigs.
The poor, wretched, hungry little creatures. It's starving they are.
Starving with all that good ethyl and oil and glycol they've been lapping up.
My heart, what they want is a bowl of cream.
Cream?
Faith, every child knows it. Pixies have ever been wild and mischievous. In the old times, they were after coming into the home itself and scaring the cat and sitting up the lamp chimney and tripping the cook. But sure, they only made trouble in houses where the folk were too mean entirely to be setting a bowl of cream out for them each evening by the back doorstep. Light of my life, feed your gremlins their cream and they'll work for you. Do you mind me now?
Cream? Yes. I read that years ago.
So you did, my heart. Get along without your cream now, and you may save the hairs on your head and the wear and tear in your nerves. And now you can be giving me a kiss if you will.
And that, sirs, is how I got on to it.
Cream.
Cream?
Sirs, cream is the answer.
Well, cream's the
if
answer.
I may continue.
Well?
Well, I left Miss O'Dooligan's residence, and that very night I remembered to fly with a half-pint bottle of the very best heavy cream in my pocket. The visibility was excellent. I was up about 25,000 feet when Clarence appeared. He was outside this time on one of the wingtips. He had his little hammer. I could see him darting back and forth in the moonlight, hammering and testing here and there. I tried to catch his eye. I waved to him. He just went on hammering. And to make matters worse, who should show up behind me but 3 Messerschmitts and a Focke-Wulf 190. The Focke-Wulf let go. The hammering continued. It was Clarence, inside now, tapping away busily at the dials. I made a grab for him, but he got away behind the transmitter. I didn't have anything to throw at him but that bottle of cream. I threw it all right. Smashed just over his head and broke. All the mess of cream flew out all over him, dousing him from head to foot. Sirs, he was the wettest, maddest gremlin you ever saw. The Jerrys were still after me, and I was so busy for the next 10 minutes I didn't have time to think of Clarence at all. Suddenly, I got the queerest feeling in the pit of my stomach, sirs. The hammering was different. It went something like this. I saw him now close by me in the light of the moon. He looked dreamy and smacked his lips. Like the cream, Clarence? There's more where that came from, but you've got to behave. Okay, if you really want to help, take a look at these Messerschmitts behind us. Know anything about German engines? You do? Then sick 'em. And that, sirs, is my report.
Interesting.
Frankly, it's the explanation of how I managed to account for 3 enemy aircraft.
Cream.
Cream?
Yes, sir? Cream, sirs.
But it's very hard to come by.
Hard to come by. Gentlemen, We'll skim
Every pail in the United Nations if necessary.
Gentlemen, the Gremlins will get their cream. Uh-oh.
Headquarters. Oh, yes, sir. It's him. He.
You take it, Courtney.
Don't want to. Well, you say so, Robert. Seniority, I suppose. Hello? Yes, sir. I'm sorry, sir, but I was inadvertently detained, yes. Oh, sir, flying conditions are excellent over the entire period, sir, over the entire area, yes, sir. You've no need to fear our anti-aircraft, and, sir, I think we've got the gremlin problem licked. You do it with cream, and then they won't bother you. In fact, they'll help you. Cream, yes. Just put it anywhere they can get at it. I should say smear some on the reindeers, on the tips of the horns and the hooves, the antlers particularly, and on the runners of the sleigh. Thank you, sir. Good night and Merry Christmas.
Ladies and gentlemen, only once every couple of centuries, a new legend appears on the face of the earth. That there are gremlins in this war is a tribute to the imperishable lightheartedness of the heroes whom they are harrying. It's our happy Christmas thought for this year that as long as pilots of the Allied nations are capable of gremlins, nothing, gremlins included, can ever get them down. In our cast tonight, an old Mercury friend, an old Mercury star, Joseph Cotton, enacted the role of Lieutenant Messler. Agnes Moorehead's part in the festivities consisted of some Irish brogue. Lou Merrill was General Roberts, and General Courtney was your obedient servant. Anthony Collins wrote the music, Lud Gluskin conducted it. And all of us wish all of you all the good things there are to wish for this Christmas. Good night, Americans.
This program has come to you from the Lockheed and Vega Aircraft Corporations of Burbank, California. This is the Columbia Broadcasting System.
Sealing Unlimited.
Hello, Americans. This is Orson Welles. This radio show is brought to you by the men and women of Lockheed and Vega. I'm speaking to you from the main waiting room at the LaGuardia Airport, New York City. The date, by the way, is February 1st, 1946.
Boston, Halifax, Belfast, Liverpool, and London. All aboard. Amazon Express leaving at gate 3 in 5 minutes.
Have a good trip, honey. Have you forgotten anything?
No, I don't think so. You packed my raincoat in the big bag?
Yes, and your Palm Beach suit and your heavy underwear. Oh, yes, and your dress suits in the small trunk along with your white flannels and warm woolly topcoat. You'll be back tomorrow night.
Yes, I have to stop at Rio on the way back. Pereira lives 400 or 500 miles out of town. You know air cabs. Takes them half a day to find a number, even if it is painted all over the roof.
Daylight limited for Cairo, Egypt, leaving on runway 82 in 5 minutes.
Is that my plane, the Daylight Limited? I'm going on to Cairo.
Yes, madam. May I see your ticket, please?
West Africa Special, leaving on runway 54.
Darling, please be sure and remember to return Mrs. Amaja's bag in Buenos Aires. She forgot it last weekend.
All in order, madam. Gate 82.
You're sure we won't need a passport?
Oh, no. All that'll be necessary is your certificate of health.
Oh, but we're going on from Cairo. We're going clear around the world. Won't we need a passport anywhere?
Oh, no, madam. Passport passports were abolished during the Second World's Congress.
Arctic Express, last
Well,
call.
of course, I knew that, but I thought maybe what I meant to say is we don't want to run into any wars or anything like that in some uncivilized part of the globe.
There hasn't been a war since
I beg your pardon, but when's the next plane for Moscow?
Oh, there's a London's Commuter Express leaving in 3.5 minutes, sir. You can change in England.
Say, I left my commutation ticket at home this morning. Can I buy a one-way ticket?
Eastern Express making connections for India at gate 9.
They haven't said a word about the South American Express.
I'm not taking it, don't you remember? I have to go to Lisbon first.
Oh, of course, that's why you took your raincoat. Well, have fun, and I'll see you tomorrow night, unless you call.
I've got a month vacation coming up in July. Think I'll take the family over. Got an 8-year-old boy who's never been to China.
Australia Special leaving in 3 minutes, gate 6. Last call for Daylight Limited.
Dear me, I'd better hustle.
Oh, take the pneumatic conveyor to runway 32, madam. You've plenty of time. Landing strip's only 2 miles away.
You be careful flying back home, and please, dear, watch what you're doing when you put the plane in the garage. Goodbye, darling.
$1946. Honolulu's an overnight hop from Chicago. You can fly the Pacific for $1.50 a mile, and if you want to impress your girlfriend, buy her a quarter's worth of orchids flown up this morning from Brazil. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a radio broadcast, but it isn't a hoax. Any resemblance to the men from Mars is purely accidental. It may interest you to know that everything, absolutely everything you've heard in the past couple of minutes, no matter how fictional it seems, is entirely possible, not next year or in 1946 or 1950, but right now. These aren't wild pipe dreams or blueprints or pulp magazine stuff. For months, the machinery which would make these miracles possible has been rolling off aircraft assembly lines. Just now, of course, our airplanes have more important things to do than to take you to Rio for a weekend.
All right. You know what to do.
Sure. Down the funnel. Men are ready.
Hold your hats, gentlemen.
Steady. Steady as you go. Bombs away. Solid, Jackson.
That Jap battleship is one dead duck. That's it, gang. Everybody bail out. Orders.
How about you, Cap?
Take care of yourself. Don't worry about me.
The rest jumped clear. But the pilot never had time to bail out. Somehow you can't help wondering if anything, even a Japanese battleship, is worth the life of a man like Colin Kelly, Jr.
In the conviction that the service and example of Captain Colin P. Kelly, Jr. will be long remembered, I ask for this consideration in behalf of Colin P. Kelly III.
That's the passport to an education for Corky Kelly, age 3, signed by the President of the United States. And that answers the questions, really. All the suffering and sacrifice, it does pay off and make sense, on one condition. If it means a better world for Colin P. Kelly III. This program is about tomorrow. AW, children call it. After the war. You've seen those hopeful, happy ads showing some man of the future shopping in his small-town sales hangar for a new plane. Those ads are true because we're going to win the war and there will be airplanes instead of, as well as cars for people to ride in. Plain people, little people. But still, is this man you?
Could be my Joe a few years from now. He's in Guadalcanal. That's where he is, I think. Always crazy to fly. Never had the chance yet.
Or it could be an Eskimo ice fisher in Unalaska, a gland patient in a Texas sanatorium, a diver in a San Francisco harbor, The county doctor back in the Mississippi swamplands.
Yeah, or me, for instance. I got me a little sheep ranch up in North Dakota. The wife, she's a Bible woman. Also what you might call literal-minded. And when the book tells her love thy neighbor, it irks her she only gets a chance to do it 3 or 4 times a year. That's when we make the trip to Chickasaw for supplies, meet the Davises that live just around Bear Point, 70 miles up the pass. I got a hunch it ain't just because she feels it her duty. She really does enjoy it when her and Mrs. Davis get together, give each other pot holders they've crocheted, and swap yarns about what they've been cooking the last few months. I know Harry Davis and me has a good time. After the buy-in's done, it's a glass of beer here and chocolate bar there. And always, no, it's got to be my treat now. Till before you know it, it's late afternoon, time to be getting back. The way you were talking, why, I suppose we could be real neighborly. Just fly across like how to do and visit the Davises at their place.
Oh, yes, you could be neighborly. This earth would bow, furling its mountains and its miles while you slipped over to call on the Davises. There'd be other neighbors for you, too. Down in Colorado, over in Ontario. Distances cease to be the limbo beyond Chickasaw Corners. Become just the swift little breezes sparkling past your wings. The advertisement, that picture of the man, whoever he is, buying his little plane, becomes an expanding dream. The transports, tomorrow's work planes, flying that Eskimo to the University of Chicago, beating death to the bedside of that country doctor's patient. Higher and swifter, flashing through the dead shadows of national boundaries and man's abject isolation from his neighbor.
But, Mr. Wells, how do we know our kids are going to be better off? How do we know it isn't going to happen all over again in another 20 years? Worse than the last time. What are we really fighting for?
Well, that's the biggest question in the world, which doesn't mean we shouldn't try to answer it. Please turn to page 3 of Time magazine for November 9th, 1942. Got it?
Mm-hmm.
Read it.
What kind of a world are we fighting for?
That's the lead line in a 2-page advertisement of Pan American World Airways.
Herewith, we present a statement written for Americans and people throughout the world by the Most Reverend William Temple, the Archbishop of Canterbury.
The structure of life as we knew it before the war has already been profoundly modified. How far do we want to restore it if we can? I offer these suggestions as a goal to aim at immediately. Every child should find itself a member of a family housed with decency and dignity, so that it may grow up in a happy fellowship unspoiled by underfeeding or overcrowding, by dirty and drab surroundings, or by mechanical monotony of environment. Every citizen should have a voice in the conduct of the business of industry which is carried on by means of his labor, and the satisfaction of knowing that his labor is directed to the well-being of the community. After the war, every citizen should have sufficient daily leisure, with 2 days of rest in 7 and an annual holiday with pay, to enable him to enjoy a full personal life. Every citizen should have assured liberty in the forms of freedom of worship, of speech, of assembly, and of association for special purposes. That's what the spiritual head of the Church of England has to say about the world for Corky Kelly. What keeps us from realizing that world? Here's America, the world's granary. But the hungry people don't get the grain. America's the world's hospital, but the patients don't arrive in time. America is the world's university, but the students can't enroll. Ever since the beginning of time, our fruitful heritage has been knotted up, congested, blocked, because the trade avenues were so narrow. The road from Sao Paulo to Archangel, from Des Moines to Hankow was never wide enough or fast enough. Well, it is now. You've heard that sound many times on this program. It's a simple sound effect. We've tried to make it more than that. We nominate that noise as a flag for the future. A trumpet call announcing tomorrow. The day to come when the bomb sites are dismantled and the guns are taken off and the steel armor removed. And man, the common man whose century this is to be, rebuilds his cities. Tomorrow. Just between us, Corky, I'd swap lifetimes with you, sight unseen. Ladies and gentlemen, this series of broadcasts is continuing at this same time. But for a while, the Mercury Theater is going off the air. Next week, my friend Ronald Coleman will tell you the story about Douglas Dauntless, the world's greatest dive bomber. We very much wish it were possible for us to go on writing and producing these radio plays. We've never been happier. We've never been as proud of an association in any medium, at any time in our life as a theater company. The Mercury is proud to have been part of a great industry. We're proud of the men and women of Lockheed and Vega. We leave with real regrets. It's not easy this time to say good night, Americans.
This program has come to you from the Lockheed and Vega Aircraft Corporations of Burbank, California. Be with us again next Monday night when Ronald Coleman tells the story of the Douglas Dauntless. This is the Columbia Broadcasting System.
That was Ceiling Unlimited here on the Mysterious Old Radio Listening Society podcast. Once again, I'm Eric.
I'm Tim.
I'm Joshua.
And I'm Shannon.
And we are live at the Bryant Lake Bowl Theater in Minneapolis. Yeah! For those of you in attendance tonight who may not know about our podcast and have come down here, we are somewhere over 350 episodes over about 10 years of this podcast. And we occasionally like to come out of the dark room and venture into the real world and see actual humans and do the podcast live.
This dark room.
Yes. So we thank you so much for being here with us tonight. And that Ceiling Unlimited was picked by our special guest, Shannon Custer.
Yes, it was.
It's a little bit outside of our normal purview of stuff that we do on the podcast, but it is a fascinating selection for you to bring. There are so many elements to this to talk about and explore. But let's start with you. You know the podcast really well. Why did you bring them?
Well, it's because of Lucille Fletcher. I love her so much. And I knew that if I was going to choose something, I wanted it to be something that she wrote. And then, of course, I stumbled upon her short play, Gremlins. And then the next thing I knew, I was, texting these guys going, could we do 2 short little plays? And
right.
Here we are.
Outrageous, no.
Outrageous. They were like, no. But yeah, so I will say that I considered another Lucille Fletcher called Alf, which I was like, with Gremlins and Alf, there's just another reason that she's like this 80s fever dream for me as well. But I just decided to go with these. I was so taken with the idea of this project and where it hit during Orson Welles' career, and I got really into it. So thank you for indulging me.
For those that may not know, Lucille Fletcher is an absolute legend, legendary writer of old-time radio, as we explained at the beginning, from The Hitchhiker to many, many, many other things.
Sorry, wrong number.
Sorry, wrong number. But the thing with Fletcher, and someone can help me out because to flush out this story, that she was in the typing pool.
Yes.
At one of the radio networks and just started cranking out scripts. I don't know what the leap was. I don't remember the exact.
She did a lot of things. She took minutes and things like that. She worked in the music library. I mean, she was just a girl about the office and started working as a writer.
And at a time when there was not a lot, if any, female writers of old-time radio.
Yes.
And the medium that the entire country, it was like 90% of information and entertainment and everything was coming from that.
Mm-hmm.
So it was
she used a gremlin to break the glass ceiling.
Right. I see what you did there.
But she did, I mean, she didn't just write radio plays. She wrote novels and straightforward plays for the stage. And so she's
amazing.
Really fascinating, as a person during this time.
My only other connection other than this and all the research you did and everything that we now know about Gremlins was only the Bugs Bunny cartoon.
Yeah, for sure. Or isn't
right?
and there's that Twilight, not
Zone.
Twilight.
Yeah,
The vampires?
The vampires,
Yes.
and some are werewolves.
Team
no.
Jacob, or whatever his name is.
No, the gremlin in the play, the Twilight Zone.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway.
Oh, the one on the plane with
Kirk.
Captain Kirk.
Yeah.
Shatner. Whatever his real name is.
I mean, it's
Captain
very
James T. Shatner.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. No, I mean, it's been, popularized in many different forms. So I think the Looney Tunes is a good place to start, actually.
Yeah, that was, I had no idea what they were talking about or context or what that was all about. But it's so interesting as a concept, Gremlins, right? That, first of all, taking away any personal responsibility for anything going wrong.
It's like computer bugs. I mean, we're actually like moths and stuff that got stuck in mainframes. Now I'm out of my depth. I don't know.
I kept thinking while listening to that, the phrase that kept popping in my head every time they described something that was happening that they were doing was, what if?
Yeah,
what if
they were
these
those
are
little
real?
creatures. Yeah.
They lifted the entire runway.
But comparing it to computers is interesting. Of like if you're in a plane and it's not working, and you call the plane help desk, and they say, "Did you try turning your plane off and on again?" Different stakes.
It's a different state. Yeah, you're right.
One thing I enjoyed about this first one, Gremlins, is that I thought it was a contemporary cliche of what Army generals sounded like.
Oh,
with the gruff voice where everybody sounds like it's Tom Waits doing a Nigel Bruce impression. And it's like, oh, no, that during the war is also what they thought generals sounded
It's
like.
amazing. I do love how the actors just completely surrender
Right.
to it. It's so fantastic.
That voice is also the only voice you can say, bring me pictures of Spider-Man.
Exactly.
In the very first little beat of where inside the UN headquarters, and suddenly I am convinced of oh, this is a very serious piece. This is
Yes,
going to be
exactly,
a
yeah.
very serious wartime piece. It's
Is it the purple ones with the big bellies? That kind of stuff.
It was there have been over the many years we've listened to radio shows. This is one of those rare ones where, as I'm listening to it, I think, what happened in my life that I am listening to this? Not that it's bad. It's just this is insane.
Right?
These were some of the most talented writers and performers in one of the most desperate hours of American history. And this is nuts.
I'm always so curious about, was this her idea? We'll never know. I mean, there's just but was this her idea, or was it pitched to her, or It feels like something that came out of her brain, but
And you also get the feeling, listening to Wells and the history that we know of this show, like a very personal show for everybody to want to be involved with. So I don't think it was, here's a pile of money, write a script for us with big names.
I don't know how personal it was to Wells, who apparently was just mildly insulted by an agent who was like, you know what, win this war by yourself. It's Ronald Coleman's problem now. We're out.
He seemed so on board. And it was after this really devastating personal setback for him, professional setback for him with the filming. And then he was like, I'm going to throw myself into doing good. And then 20 minutes later, he's like, you're on your own, America. You know, so yeah, he's an interesting guy, the Orson Welles.
What was the setback with the filming again?
It's his life story.
Right.
You have to be a lot more specific.
He
It's a
just
setback.
got really mad at an agent and left.
With the film, I just assumed that they ran out of money.
The film you're
Yes,
talking
the
about.
film as Wells always ran out of money.
That was just a series of mishaps, and
I think he started a world war.
But when he came back from that trip, he threw himself back into radio. It was like film had destroyed him, you know.
Yeah.
He started too well in film, obviously.
Did Wells.
Oh, bye. See, now
But,
it just got ruined.
I got one
Everything's
applause.
ruined. They're scared. They're scared for you.
So the other thing about this that's so fascinating to me, as you brought up, is the absolute star power that's involved in this with Agnes Moorehead and Orson Welles. I mean, how could you not back at that time hear those names and not go, well, I'm listening to that? It's like the Dolly Parton Christmas special. Who's going to be on it? Yeah, I'll watch that.
Well, it was his full roster of, you know, his Mercury Theater actors, but then also, I mean, obviously, he had enough sway in Hollywood. People wanted to be a part of it. You know, it was a big deal.
Christmas time early in the war was a time in which people needed to be distracted and cheered up. So I excuse the incredibly insipid,
phone call from Santa Claus?
Yes.
But then also,
that's what people needed to hear.
and I feel like it's so Lucille Fletcher in her style, too, to have this huge thing that was downing all of these planes be solved by this Irish lass. And she's like, it's cream because of the Pixies. You know, like, that's such, to me, such a loose, like, to have that moment be such a stark contrast to these blustering generals who are like, we can't fly our planes. And she's like, do. And the end, you know? I just think that's so her.
It's also a nice little Lucille Fletcher nod that it is the female gremlin that gets into their meeting and vexes them, and they can't do anything about it. And breaks the window. Yeah.
They're like, don't kill it. It's a female.
We need it for our breeding experiments.
Well, the scene of drenching the gremlin in cream was like, this is a little PG-13, I feel.
We are only 47 mentions away from marking how many times they said the word cream.
Oh, so intentionally. I was like, cream.
The Prince song has less.
And then I love too, but then there's that one moment where they're like, that's kind of hard to get.
Yeah. All milk and dairy products were highly rationed, so I think that was another
kind of part
joke
of it,
on
too.
Lucille Fletcher's part.
Because all the cows are off fighting.
Yes.
Somebody in the writer pool, so they're technically cream is very difficult to get. Damn it, Leonard.
But I will say I did listen to the other, 11 Ceiling Unlimiteds. This one is definitely different in tone from most of them.
Well, it's very different from the second one.
Yes. And the second one feels more in line with the rest. I mean, there were letters home and, some really, very beautiful, but very plucking the heartstrings.
Yeah.
So hers very much stands out as a different kind of offering in this series.
I honestly think the second one is much weirder.
Yeah, it is weird. Yes, I so agree.
When it opens in 1946 with a one-world government where passports have been abolished.
Yes.
Right.
And we all fly planes that are
We all own planes.
apparently that Lockheed has a contract with the One World government. They are
Yes.
essentially the spacing guild from Dune, right? They control everything, and that is the utopia they are
Yes.
presenting that is vaguely based on the theocratic vision of the Archbishop of Canterbury.
That's the other part. That's why I put we have slides for those listening at home, but that's why I have this picture of, and what's interesting about that Archbishop is he was only the Archbishop from 1942 to 1944.
Oh, this
Never got to see his 1946 Utopia.
He didn't know. He was like, these are my thoughts. And they put it in Time magazine in a Pan American ad. And then Orson read it on the air. And it was
Right.
like, I'm leaving. It is very strange.
I love the guy who's like, I've never taken my son to China. And I'm like, don't do it.
But also that 1946, when was the last war? Recent, I feel.
Yeah, because they were like, it's
Yeah, they didn't give themselves a lot of time. They were just like, within 3 months, everything will be different.
Presumably, Lockheed also developed some sort of mind erasing power.
Yes. No, and it's so, it's maudlin, and it has this.
Don't get me wrong. I think as a piece of propaganda, using that term as neutrally
Yeah,
as
as
possible,
neutrally,
I think
yes.
it's amazingly well done because it does
Yeah.
that thing where it just keeps moving from idea to idea and keeps you from actually thinking about it, right?
Yes, yes.
Unless you're in 2024 and have to talk about it on a podcast, you just kind of like, oh, I'll just sort of
there it
glide
is.
along.
Yeah.
That's neat. That's also
that
neat.
sounds cool.
Yeah.
I'd like to own an aeroplane.
I would love an airplane.
It's like a propaganda cabaret show.
Without
Yes.
any of the songs.
Right. Right.
It's like he thought, I have 15 minutes left. So he put it all in there.
Yeah, like,
I mean, he put it all in there,
You're
whether
right.
it wanted to be in there or not. He
that's
put it
his
in
last
there.
one. That was probably his
Yeah.
ideas for 6 episodes.
It also has the idea of like most of the world's problems could just be fixed if flights didn't take so long.
Yes.
Wells is the king of the uncomfortable pregnant pause, to the point of the spacing between, he's being dramatic, leads you to the point of, oh, okay.
You start to get up, yeah.
Are we done? No? Oh, okay, he's going to talk.
Yeah.
Just so dramatic.
I love the way he says, "Good night, America."
Right.
Are you on the radio or
Right.
hitting on me in a bar, Orson
Right.
Welles?
Or in my closet.
No, it's
Under
very,
my bed.
It's very dramatic. And when the series, that ended, Mercury Theater, and the way he says it, we're going off the air, it's like a death. And then he's like, but we're going to do some stuff next week. Don't worry. And I love that they just called it America Ceiling Unlimited. That's real.
Right.
And it was more of a variety show. I know very little about that. Although
Are
he
there-
did show up on some of those.
Are there any in existence? Do you know?
America? Yeah, I think so. I didn't go down that.
And how many Ceiling Unlimiteds, I didn't catch this, were recorded? Do we know?
Oh, I don't know. I just know the 13 that
The 13
that
exist.
were all Orson. I mean, he did all of them
All right.
outside of Lucille's writing and things like that.
Right.
The other interesting thing from a contemporary point of view in that second episode, The Future, was the idea that proximity to your neighbor would make them easier to love.
Yes.
We now know that connectedness does not in any way foster love.
Yeah, it was it's a huge theme, and it was about that making the world smaller, and
Mhm.
again, I just don't know if there is another example of a radio show where the sponsor was the star. Like, I mean,
And shares its plans to take over the world.
Although I do think the model they presented of this young farmer who sees his neighbors like only once every few months, that sounds real nice. Just drinking and some chocolate and some falling asleep, and all right, see you in 6 months. We'll do it again.
He's like, I love my neighbors. I never see them.
Yeah.
Well, not that I hate neighbors or anything, but just that it sounds like a real nice celebration of like, hey, I'm not bored of you.
Remind me not to come over for Christmas.
I will say too that the title of this, Ceiling Unlimited, CBS tried to get him to change the title so many times.
Was that Orson's idea? That sounds like an Orson.
He was
idea.
like, I will call it nothing else.
Right.
And so it was very much, even though, again, the sponsorship was so intense, it was his project.
Right.
And he was very intense about it, obviously.
Yeah. Well, everything he did was his.
There's no, what's the word, chill doesn't figure into Orson Welles' life. Yeah.
Collaboration.
But yeah, so Ceiling Unlimited they were like, that's a terrible name. No one's gonna listen to it.
Did they talk like the guy in the...
It's terrible. They were like, that's a terrible name.
Bring me pictures of Spider-Man.
So I kind of feel like when they renamed it America Ceiling Unlimited, they felt better about the whole thing.
Wells wanted to call Mercury Theater first person singular.
Yeah, that was
That's
the
an
original
exciting
name.
Yeah,
title.
he would not budge. And
could we just call radio Orson Welles? Is that something we could do?
But yeah, so he had a lot of run-ins early on with it, which is interesting when you think about the amount of star power and...
Right.
And again, it was difficult to see how popular it really was.
Largely forgotten now.
Yeah, it's not even like the fourth thing mentioned in his career. I mean, obviously he had some big ones, but
there are things that we've forgotten from this era of radio that were incredibly powerful and popular. For example, the yearly Christmas Carol with Mercury Theater, and was it Mercury Theater or Orson
they
Welles?
did it once or twice.
What's his name?
Santa Claus?
Yeah,
that guy. No, who played Scrooge?
Barrymore.
Yeah, and it was a huge deal in the country. Everybody's like, oh, the radio version of Christmas Carol's coming. It was about 9-10 years. It was a very popular and important thing. Also, don't forget, this was an
back
era
when recurring Christmas carols was a thing.
right. And it's also the era, that a ventriloquist act was the most popular radio show in the country. Edgar Bergen.
Yeah. See, the audience had to think about that for a second.
What?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That was one of the most popular. That was the... Here's a little trivia for those who don't know. War of the Worlds, did it really have that effect when it was broadcast? Really, very few people were listening to War of the Worlds that night, percentage-wise. Majority of the country was tuned into the Charlie McCarthy, Edgar Bergen show, which was a ventriloquist act. Every week on the radio. Millions of listeners. It was a huge success. I like the silence because it's not boredom, it's what? You have to envision it, but I will say that way his lips really don't move. Wow, he's really good.
Did he bring the dummy though?
Yeah, it's instead of theater of the mind, it's theater of the lips.
Right.
Just gotta imagine them not moving.
If no one else has anything, let's vote. I will start with classic. No, it's not a classic of radio drama or audio theater in any way. However, it is amazingly probably top 3 in all of our shows that we've done, the most poignant as far as historical significance. The historical significance of listening to these is absolutely worth the listen. It's amazing to hear all of those nuances of life and culture and the things that were being thought of and coming out through a radio program. So it's absolutely historically significant. And actually, I will say, regardless of content, of storytelling or anything of that nature, it's very well produced. Extremely well produced and care. There is craftsmanship in the
This
product.
feels like every email I get after auditions. We really liked you.
You are historically
you're
significant.
not in the show. Yeah. No, I'm sorry.
Wow. Yeah, I think often on this podcast we use the verdict of historically significant as a kind of consolation prize, but here it's not. because I think that is what is so fascinating. It's so rich with history. Sometimes we do use it as a consolation prizes. And yeah, if you have this obscure, nerdy knowledge of the creator behind the scenes, this is of historical interest to you if you're into old-time radio. But this has such broad historical interest.
Exactly.
And it's just a kind of propaganda. It's specificity. The one world airplane government is just like, that's really weird and fun. I want to sort of flesh that out in some fan fiction, I think. So I had an absolute blast with this. And then you combine that historical interest with a cast that is hands down a classic old time radio cast, some of the legends. And it was just a great double feature. Thank you.
I'm very similar to what's been said, but I was trying to think of, like, if you presented this to maybe some people here who are like, I have no idea what any of this is about. Like, I have this much knowledge of World War II. I have no knowledge of old radio. To what degree do you go have the same reaction of us? Like, wow, that was amazing. Not necessarily that engaging right now, but with the context, amazing. So, yes.
Let me sleep on it and get back to you. That's a vote.
Sure. But having that context, these are amazing performances and super fun scripts and just a fascinating little nugget of history that is like a loose tooth in the mouth of history.
We just pulled it out. This podcast is a wrench.
I can't stop fiddling with this episode with my tongue. That's what I'm trying to say. So that's my vote.
Oh my God, I have to vote. Well, obviously, I found it fascinating. I feel like I owe everybody a beer. I did love the performances.
Yes.
I love the insight into Orson Welles. I love Lucille Fletcher. She's to blame for why we're here. And I do have a real soft spot for some of the revealing ideologies in this particular set of plays. And I had a good time researching it, but you know, I mean, my master's degree is in Victorian parlor plays for children, so I lead a quiet life. Thank you for joining me.
Take our audience's temperature just by applause. How many people had a very positive reaction to these episodes? Lovely. No judgment. Who was like, not so much about these episodes? Oh, fair enough. Fair enough.
Good, I read the room accurately. There was like this sort of Dementor chill from this corner.
Total sense.
Shannon, thank you so much for bringing that the opportunity to explore. After 350 episodes and a lot more coming up of this podcast, we keep finding new shows that we think we've heard of every single show that's out there that still exists that we can listen to. And we just keep getting surprised, like, oh, what's that? Never heard of that. So it's great to be able to bring something. You know, we've done 60 episodes of suspense. You know, like it's nice to have something really unique like that. And that was
you mean those fun mystery shows
that everyone loves?
That everyone loves.
All right, Tim, tell them stuff.
Hey, if you liked this episode, we have got 350 plus more of them at ghoulishdelights.com or wherever you get your podcasts. If you're at ghoulishdelights.com, you can leave comments, you can vote in polls, let us know what you thought of them, and you can also find links to our store to get some Mysterious Old Radio Listening Society themed swag, and you'll find a link to our Patreon page.
Yes, you can go to patreon.com/themorals, and guess what? After buying tickets to the show, you could give us more money to support the podcast if you like. We have a lot of bonus content in exchange for those monthly generous donations. We have bonus podcast episodes. We get together monthly with all our patrons on Zoom, and you guessed it, discuss old time radio shows. And we also have book clubs. We do a lot of fun stuff. We have our own Discord server for Patreons, and so you pretty much can't afford not to become one.
And if you'd like to see us performing live, the Mysterious Old Radio Listening Society Theater Company, we do monthly and sometimes more than once a month live on-stage recreations of classic old-time radio shows and a lot of our own original work. We've been doing that nonstop for over 8 years. If you'd like to find out where we're performing, what we're performing, and how to get tickets, just go to ghoulishdelights.com. Find out when we're doing these live podcasts at ghoulishdelights.com and come and see us do these like you folks just did. So I don't know what I'm telling you. You know that. All right. What is coming up next?
Next, we are going to be doing a Q&A with your mysterious old hosts. We're calling it our mysterious old leftovers special because it's all the leftover questions from our last Q&A session. Until then, look out!
Originally aired December 21st, 1942 and February 1st, 1943, respectively.
But also respectfully.
And also respectfully.